Hello, everybody. Can you see me or am I sideways? Hopefully I'm not sideways. But Nika here with your daily neuro nugget. I am relaxed, rejuvenated, well rested, no alarms this weekend. So I hope you're ready to do the same here and kick butt the whole week. And let's get right into it because I think it's so important to cover information, tidbits of statements that were maybe made at the very beginning of the case. And maybe they were forgotten about, or maybe we have changed our mind about it. And we're allowed to change our minds, by the way, and you should change your mind, especially if there's new evidence or the case is pointing to a different direction or different directions. You should be changing your mind. You should not be narrow focused, okay? You should be open to change because that's how we get to the truth. Of course, you guys know my videos are speculation and my opinions only. You do your own research and come to your own conclusions. By the way, if you like the channel so far, make sure to share with other people because my goal is to create a community of just regular people, regular lives, regular jobs who can think critically and share information. My goal is information sharing, and that leads us to the truth. And of course, for everybody, including Mr. Brian Kohberger, to get a fair trial. That is the goal. That is always the goal. This statement was made by Michael Mancuso. Mancuso, by the way, happens to be running for district attorney in Monroe County, where Kohberger was arrested in Pennsylvania. Just something to keep in mind, because again, it has been known that sometimes people in political places get bought by other people. They have been sometimes offered money or positions of power in return for a body. For example, in this case, it could be Kohberger. I'm not saying that happened in this case. I'm just saying, yes, I am speculating, but keep an open mind, right? You never know. So Michael Mancuso, the first assistant district attorney, said, Mr. Kohberger was found awake in the kitchen area dressed in shorts and a shirt, wearing latex medical type gloves, and apparently was taking his personal trash and putting it into a separate Ziplock baggie. Now, the first time that I heard that, red flag, red flag, red flag. What is he doing? Okay, it was 1:30 a.m. when they arrested him. What is he doing standing in the middle of his freaking kitchen at 1:30 a.m. separating trash and putting it into Ziploc baggies? He did it. That was my first guttural instinct. And I sat with this information for a few days, and then I reminded myself, Nika, you're better than this. Don't allow your primitive reactions to take over. Don't allow these defense mechanisms to take over, because that's what it is, right? If you see somebody who may be a threat, you immediately want to label it, give it a name so that you can protect yourself. But as science shows, these guttural instincts are often wrong. So it is important we try to emotionally detach when we are attempting to be critical, okay? Critical thinkers. And after I sat with this queasy feeling in my stomach, I said, well, okay, that's weird. Let's be real. That's a little creepy, right? He did it, right? But then I remembered a couple of times when I have taken my Adderall a little too late, and then guess who has been standing in the kitchen doing dishes or scrubbing the damn floors at 2, 3 in the morning? Okay, I have done that. So I tried to put myself in BK's shoes and imagined the FBI raiding my home as I'm doing that, like scrubbing my floors as they're analyzing a potential criminal suspect here. Would that be weird? Yeah. Would that make me look bad? Oh, yes, I think so. I think so. And is that something that they should have noted like they did? Yeah, because it does look suspicious. But we always have to dig deeper, right? And it has been mentioned that now, months later after this information came out, we learn that where Kohberger's parents live, they're required to separate the trash. When I first read Ziploc baggies, I'm thinking, yeah, but if you're putting them in Ziploc baggies, like, what are you putting in these tiny little sandwich bags? Like, it can't be anything good. Like, if you're going to separate the trash, what are you putting in these little things? I can see you separating cardboard from paper or paper from plastic, but Ziploc baggies? And I'm like, okay, we have to give people benefit of the doubt. So there are larger Ziploc baggies, right? There are larger ones, gallon-sized ones, gallons-sized ones. So maybe it was large Ziploc baggies. Maybe it wasn't not these tiny little things that we think about. We don't know. That's the thing. We cannot jump to conclusions. So I analyze that and then I'm thinking, okay, but Brian Kohberger was at his parents' house for 2 weeks before he got arrested. You're telling me they didn't find anything? No DNA in the trash? Not a Q-tip, no floss, no napkin, nothing? Is that incriminating in a way? Because again, my first instinct was, yeah, that's very strange. How the hell do they not find any DNA in the trash? They found his father's. You have to remember that. And I thought, okay, is he really that stupid? Like, this guy knows cloud forensics. He knows about DNA, potentially. And he has a criminal psychology background. Was he really this stupid to just, not cover his tracks fully? Is that why he was trying to potentially separate his DNA in plastic baggies? Was he even doing that? So my first thought was, okay, he knows theory and he might be competent in that sense, but he actually has no practical knowledge or experience in criminal activity. So he failed to do a lot of basic things. Hence the forgetting to take out his parents' DNA from the trash. But then I learned it's actually not that easy to test all the DNA from the trash of 2 weeks, by the way. So my current answer is that, look, even if there's a massive bin full of trash with maybe his DNA in there, his parents, his sisters, whoever else was at the home, the lab is not going to run every single item pulled from the trash because that is extremely, extremely time consuming. And they were focused on the search warrants, remember? So I think what would make sense in such a case and what they likely did was that they chose items from the trash, probably just a few, that were likely to have decent amounts of DNA. And then they tested those and then they got the familial comparison, right? Because again, part of the search warrant was to collect a buccal swab from BK's cheek so that they could compare to the DNA that they found on the sheath. So that does not mean that they did not have any of his DNA in the trash. Doesn't mean that it was not available. It could mean that there were maybe 30 napkins in the trash that had his DNA, but they didn't get to test them because, again, it'd be extremely, extremely time consuming to test everything there. So we only know that there was an expedited rush to match the trash to the knife. That's it. That's it. But why am I covering this? I think it's because I wanted to point out that it's very, very easy, and my light died, I just realized that. It's very, very easy to jump to these conclusions, to say that he was separating DNA, covering his tracks, because he knew that he was guilty, right? But we don't actually know if this behavior was atypical. And now that we have learned much more about BK, I think this behavior is actually pretty typical. And the reason I say that is because there were some interviews. I'll get some light here. There were some interviews with his neighbors in Pullman, and they said he was a little bit strange. He was quirky, he was weird, and that he would vacuum at like 2 a.m. sometimes. And again, I can kind of semi-relate here with him because when I'm not working two jobs, my biology wants to be a night owl. I'm a night owl. And that means I'm up at 3, 4, sometimes even 5 a.m. I'm cooking, I'm cleaning, I'm vacuuming as BK was vacuuming at random times. I mean, it is not typical. So of course, typical people are going to think this is bizarre behavior because it's not common. But that doesn't mean he's the criminal. Just because he was maybe an insomniac or a night owl driving out, doing laps potentially at 3 a.m. does not mean he is the criminal, okay? I know a lot of you guys are night owls too. Maybe you were also driving around, listening to music or just driving, relaxing, trying to shut your brain down. I have done that so many times. It does not mean you are a criminal. It does not mean he committed the IDAHO4. But I think, and I am not his psychologist, but I do think that he is on the spectrum, okay? I believe he has autism spectrum disorder. I believe he's on the spectrum because his facial expressions, his mannerisms kind of resemble one of a person who has autism. Okay, he tends to have a resting BITCH face. He tends to be somewhat monotone from the few videos that are seen of him in the courts. And I think we cannot analyze atypical people with typical body analysts. A lot of the times these body analysts do not know how to read body language from atypical people. And it can give mixed signals. So the science says that people who are psychopathic, for example, antisocial personality disorder, have atypical body language because they tend to be very cool, very calm, very collected, normal heart rate, regular size pupils in intense times of stress. They are atypical. Even their skin conductance is different. Okay, they are chill. They're like chill in times of stress. People on the spectrum also have atypical body language. And I believe this is one of the reasons that the defense said we do not want cameras in the courtroom. And I think this was an extremely intelligent move because if you were an atypical person in a typical world, they are going to destroy him, try to destroy him with body language alone. Because we've already seen it. We've seen people say, He has no remorse. He's a demon. He's a monster. He's a devil. Look at him. No emotion. And I'm over here like, I think he's on the spectrum. I am not a psychologist again. I don't know. That is just what I'm sensing. And you let me know down in the comments below, what do you think about this picture? Remember, this is how they paint someone to be a criminal. They tell you he was standing there with latex gloves separating DNA, but when you go back and reanalyze the statements, you're like, well, maybe he was just cleaning. Well, maybe he is atypical. Maybe he has some OCD. Who vacuums your house at 3 in the morning? An OCD person maybe, or maybe somebody who is an insomniac, or maybe somebody who is on the spectrum, or they have rituals, behaviors in place. You let me know, what do you think? Because again, I am guilty of thinking that he was guilty from this mental image alone. And now I am not so sure. Just something to think about. Don't judge people just because they do certain things. You have to analyze their own typical patterns, their own typical behaviors, and we are all different. What I do at 3 in the morning is likely not the same thing that you do at 3 in the morning, just saying. So, for the light, I apologize for the shitty lighting. I'm so sorry. But I will charge it for tomorrow, guys. I hope you have a wonderful day. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and let me know if there's any other information that you guys would like me to cover. I have to share with you that weird vehicle I saw when the house was being demolished, okay? Why is there a white Elantra freaking running around the back of the house? Is it just one Elantra out of the supposedly thousands of Elantras that were there? Because it's just weird that there's a white Elantra creeping right behind the house as it's being demolished. Or is it the criminal? You tell me. Have a good night.